Glee is a show that either fills you with lots of joy and nostalgia, or it's the kind of show that makes you want to like curl up in a ball just full of cringe, unable to face the outside world. And I would like to argue that it is in fact both. I know that I hold space for both the cringe and the nostalgia when I think about Glee. But either way, Glee was a huge part of my teenagehood. It was a part of so many of our lives back in the earlier 2010s. And it was also just a big part of pop culture. So from the Glee project to rumored spin-offs to games and merch, I want to talk about Glee today. And there are so many great like recap YouTube channels and podcasts. This video is not a recap. Instead, I just want to talk about where Glee was in its own world. Like, what were we making? What were we consuming outside of the Glee show itself? If we've not met before, I'm Rose Confetti. I make videos from this cute little pastel office about whatever I'm feeling like. And today I really do need your moral support to get through talking about the trauma that is Glee. And so I'd really appreciate it if you stick around and if you hit that subscribe button. Wow, that was like so 2009. I'm going to leave it in. You know what? The 2009 reflexes kicked in and we're going to allow it just for today. For context, Glee came out in 2009. So when we go through this list of like merch and games and all sorts of stuff, I need you to keep that in your mind. That is the culture that we are examining Glee through. Like, everything on this list that I want to talk about today is so early 2010s, and there's just something so like cringe but also kind of wholesome about it. Like in 2009, I was definitely spending all my time playing on my Nintendo DSi, like playing Bad Romance for the 100th time on my iPod Shuffle. Like, that was the scene, and that was a fantastic time to be living in the Glee era, a Gleek, if you will. I'm gonna have to say Gleek so many times in this video, and it's like I'm losing sensitivity to it, but it is such a horrible word. Can we just acknowledge that for a second? Now, the inspiration for this video isn't just the fact that I recently started rewatching Glee. It was actually because at a friend's house, she recently found her old PS2. And on that PS2, she had SingStar. Now, when I started playing SingStar at her house, all I could think about was how I had a Glee karaoke game. And so I started Googling like what this was and when it existed, and fell down a rabbit hole. So that is why this video exists. And what a good spot to start. Let's start with that Glee karaoke game. It turns out there were 3 versions of Karaoke Revolution Glee. It came out in 2010 on the Wii, which, you know, is where all good games live. And I saw a Reddit post, it was not a very big one to be fair, that said that Karaoke Revolution Glee was the worst Wii game that they'd ever played. And I just think that is so funny, and I completely disagree with them, because sometimes at like 9 p.m. on a Saturday night, you really need to perform, say a little prayer with your little sister for your mum and your dad, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is by owning Karaoke Revolution Glee. Now, if you didn't have a Wii, there were also mobile games in the Glee sphere, in the Glee universe, the Gleekiverse. That's not going to catch on. In the Glee universe, there was like those tap games. You know, those ones where you would basically just tap along to the music. I imagine they're based off those great like Japanese arcade games, but like turned into iPad baby versions. So there was one literally called Tap Glee. And when I brought up the graphics for this game, I was suddenly flooded with memories of playing this game on my iPod Touch in about 2012, which is just so early 2010s, but it was a lot of fun at the time. There was also Glee Forever, which I looked up, and I haven't played this game, but it looks the same as Tap Glee, so I'm a little bit confused about why there were 2 different versions. If you played it, let me know in the comments below. But these games did part from this world, passed on to another world, into Glee heaven in about 2016. So although online it seems like some people were fans, it does no longer exist, which is a little bit sad. Then over on DVD, like all good 2010s games, there was a DVD game. One of these DVD games was a Scene It. I believe this is just like trivia games, like maybe there's little activities or whatever, but it's mostly just trivia about the show. I never had any of these games. For me, as an Australian, the idea of a DVD game just feels very American. I don't know why. Maybe that was just because I didn't have them, but I certainly haven't ever gone to a friend's house as a kid and played a DVD game. But anyway, there was a Glee Scene It from 2011. I did find it on eBay and had a look at it. And the first thing that I saw was that you either play as Team Shu or Team Sue. Who is playing as Team Shu? Even when I rewatch Glee, I like like skip through every time Mr. Shoe raps. And that's just like, I'm sure how everyone watches Glee. So who is going on to seen it and being like, yeah, I'm going to play as Mr. Shoe today? No, it's not happening. Strangely enough, along with having a DVD game, there was also a CD game. And from what I can gather, it was literally just called Glee CD board game. Something that did stand out to me while looking at all of these games was how comfortable all of these manufacturers were with putting just the word Gleek across everything, like completely unironically. So many of these games say like, unleash your inner Gleek. And like sometimes Gleek was in, you know, quotation marks, but they were still using it totally unironically. And I just think that is such a time in history. Like imagine you've opened a time capsule in 100 years. Someone has put some like Glee memorabilia in there, as they should, and it just starts referring to people as Gleeks. Like it is such a like special period of time. And I think it is so funny that we're all really comfortable referring to ourselves as Gleeks. And one of the Gleek offenders was this cranium game, which looks like a pretty standard like cranium game where you make sculptures and you draw things and I think you act things out or whatever. Honestly, the production value on the cranium game looks pretty good. Out of all the games, I think this one was probably worth the money, but I also remember cranium games being expensive. So if you had it, let me know. All of these items I desperately want to find in an op shop one day. I'm sure they're out there and I just need to like spend my life hunting for them. And in the spirit of this, I jumped onto eBay to see what Glee merch is just gathering dust in people's homes. And these were some of my favorites. So there was a 5 megapixel Glee digital camera, which honestly, if I found this for a reasonable price, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I also saw this posting for earphone clips, which I forgot was a thing. I don't even really remember if I ever saw them in real life, but they're like clips you can put on your wired headphones. And considering I have seen some people bringing back the wired headphone, maybe we need to bring back the accessories. And then lastly, in my little eBay deep dive, I also found something that might be the most annoying thing your like kid neighbor could get, which is a clarinet lesson book based on Glee songs. If anyone out there can play the clarinet, please get this and learn to play some Glee tunes. Like that is just so silly and so Glee. Like the spirit of Glee will just fill you as you play these songs. It's just ridiculous. I think what I love most about all these games and accessories and merch and all that kind of stuff is just how they really emulate Glee's energy. Like they're not cool. Like none of these were cool options for ways to like advertise your show, but it just works. Like they're a little bit nerdy, they're a little bit silly, they always have a lot to do with the music. Like it just works for me. And one thing I was really surprised at in the Glee universe was that there weren't more spin-offs or reboots. It's not quite a spin-off, but apparently they did release DVDs at one point that were just the Glee performances. These were called Glee Encore, and in an era where, you know, you can look up whatever you want on YouTube, it does seem wild to me that anyone would have bought a DVD of just the performances. And when I was reading the reviews on like the Glee Wiki or whatever, some people were saying that it's not even all the songs from the season, it was just some of them. So you could buy the Glee Encore DVD and not even get your favorite song off there, which for me, if I didn't get Rose's Turn sung by Kurt, I would have been fuming. That was absolutely my favorite Glee song. Speaking of DVDs, they also had the Glee Concert 3D movie, which is just like stringing random words together. But they basically had these live shows after season 1 where the cast went out, performed in character in these live shows, and they filmed it and made like a movie out of it. IMDb called it a mockumentary, which really perplexed me, but then I realized it's probably because the actors are in character while on stage. But even more perplexing than that, it was in 3D. Why was this movie in 3D? I know it was the early 2010s, so like 3D just felt cool and now and hip and with it and like exciting, but why was it in 3D? I never got to see this movie, and certainly not in 3D. If you saw it, did you get slushied in the face? Did Rachel Berry like appear in the stands around you, like singing some Broadway show tunes? Like, please tell me, why was it in 3D and was it worthwhile? I wish I could travel back and find out what that was all about. Now, aside from the concerts, I was always really surprised that we never had a Glee spin-off, especially as we approached that era where we needed new Glee cast members to come into the show. Apparently, according to some articles I like read from the time, Ryan Murphy was debating doing a spin-off with Kurt, Rachel and Finn after they graduated, like following their New York storyline. I do think this would have been good. However, apparently, and definitely like apparently, allegedly, etc., he like told a journalist that was his plans before telling the actors, and the actors were like kind of annoyed that they weren't told about it, and then it all got awkward, so they canned it. Look, if that's the case, that's not great. And I do think it is a shame that we didn't get the spin-off. However, at the same time, keeping them on the show, I think made a lot of us stick through those later seasons to like see what happens to them. So maybe it was for the best that we didn't get the spin-off in the end. Then, of course, we have the reality TV show / spin-off / whatever you want to call it that we all know and love, the Glee Project. The Glee Project saw Glee hopefuls, people that wanted to be on the show, who thought they were like singer, dancer, actor, triple threats, compete for like a several episode arc on the show. What a cool prize. Like in terms of a reality show, actually providing the winners something that will help launch their career and that like feels special to them, I think that was a really, really cool prize. And they were judged by actual people who worked on the show. So I believe Ryan Murphy used to make like the final call on who went home or who won or whatever. And then there was a casting director and a choreographer who also gave them feedback every week. And yeah, I expect most of you have watched it. So rather than recap the show, I thought it would be fun to do a little where are they now of the winners from season 1. We had 2 winners in season 1. The first was Damien McGinty. He had that whole like storyline with Brittany where she thought he was a leprechaun. And when I looked him up, turns out he's from Derry, which I think is so fun. Imagine if he could have been a Derry Girls. That would have been absolutely delightful. He seems to have a really wholesome existence from what I could see online. He has his own solo music career and he's the lead singer of Celtic Thunder. And if you're in the US, apparently he's on tour, so you could totally go and see him. And on top of that, apparently he was on the Irish version of Dancing with the Stars a couple of years ago. So it seems like Damien, loving life, doing his thing. On the flip side, and not because he's not loving life, but just because it brings very different energy, the other winner in season 1 was Samuel Larson. He was the guy with the dreadlocks, and I remember him being like the Christian character, which pretty sure Ryan Murphy took that whole idea from the other guy who left the show. I think his name was Cameron. Anyway, that was his role on the show, and his Instagram is single-handedly keeping indie sleaze alive. Like, this is the complete opposite vibe to Damien. But I'm glad for Samuel. I'm glad he's living his life. He's releasing music. He seems happy. That's good for him. But just so funny to me that out of the 2 winners, they are very polar opposite. And then the runner-ups for the Glee Project Season 1, I would argue, in some ways, more like recognizably famous since the show. So one of the runner-ups was Lindsay Pearce. She played the like other school's Rachel, like a Rachel alternative, and she was awesome. She was awesome on the show, and since then she's been on stage singing, dancing, acting, doing her whole thing. Most notably, she played Elphaba on Broadway. She's been in Titanic. She's been in Les Mis. She was in Mean Girls the musical. Like, she's out there killing it, which is really, really cool to see. Then, of course, we have Alex Newell, the icon, the first out non-binary person to win a Tony. They were in Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. They're in Another Simple Favor, that new Blake Lively movie that's out this year. And they've got some really amazing music. So really, really cool to see Alex still out there. And like looking back, it makes so much sense why Alex got more episodes when they were on the show. Like knowing the success that they've had now, it's just so cool to think back then. Us geeks. I can't do it. Us viewers, we did appreciate Alex so much that even though they only won a few episodes on the show initially, they came back as a series regular, which is really cool. Sometimes when I rewatch Glee or read about what people are doing now post the show, I do wonder if a reboot would ever be on the cards. And honestly, I just don't think it would work. Like, I think this show is so 2009, early 2010s. Like, I think it would be really hard to recreate that magic. I would love some kind of reunion episode, like maybe a movie length comeback for their high school reunion. Like, I would like to see some of those actors back together. I feel like there's always rumors of a reboot, but personally, I just don't think it's ever going to happen. And maybe that's for the best. But if you do want to enjoy some Glee content, but with a little bit more of like a 2025 lens, you really should listen to And That's What You Really Missed. It's the podcast that Jenna and Kevin, aka Tina and Artie, host. They recap episodes of the show. They talk to old friends from the show. They talk about behind the scenes stuff. Like, it's all really fun, juicy stuff if you were a Glee fan, and kind of helps you go go through a rewatch with some people to support you, support through the cringe, support through some of the more problematic storylines. It's just a really good time. And on top of that, both Jenna and Kevin were on the same season of Secret Celebrity Drag Race. And like, Secret Celebrity Drag Race is kind of strange. I watched a couple of seasons and it really differs season to season, but the one that they're on is a really fun time, and getting to see them on stage performing and not knowing each other are on the show is wonderful. So yeah, if you want a little bit of Glee in 2025, check both of those things out. Oh, all right, that's enough Glee for one video, and I really want to get out of this whole Rachel Berry get up. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'm obviously still very new to YouTube, so it means a lot if you do that. Leave a comment below if you were a Gleek. I don't want to have to say that word anymore. Leave a comment below if you have any special memories of Glee that you would like to share to the class. And I'll be back with another video sometime soon. Bye.